Hi, I'm Miriam Joy and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be working on a recycled pumpkin, and we're going to be making it out of the 2-liter soda bottle, and it needs to be clear. I've tried doing it with different colored ones like the green and stuff, and it doesn't work. You don't get a nice color for the pumpkin that we want to be using, so make sure you have a clear bottle. First thing I did was I took my hobby knife and I kind of got a slit in there, and I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to be using my small craft scissors. They work a lot better, and I'm following the line around the bottom of our little bottom of our soda bottle. And if your little sodas are like this, you could use them as well, your little plastic bottled ones. We want to keep this as straight as possible. Okay, now I've got to go in and trim this neater. So that we don't have any little spikes or anything kind of out. And I'm going to finish drying my soda bottom to my towel. And another thing that I kind of did, if it was rough a little bit, just sand it. That one's really nice. That feels pretty good. But you want to make sure that it's really, really dry now. What we're actually going to do is actually paint backwards how we would normally paint our pumpkin, because we're doing it on the inside. So I'm going to start with my highlight color, which I'm going to be using an apricot color. This is acrylic paint, and I'm going to be using my stipple brush, pounce into that color, and I'm just going to put that right in the middle of these ridges, because that's where the highlight colors would be. Not too much, just enough to give that a highlight. Okay, and if you think that needs any more, then give it a little bit more. And we're actually going to let that dry. And we're going to be working with 2 at a time, so go ahead and set your color one, because you need one for your top and your bottom to get those all done. So go ahead and cut your other one as well. Okay, now that our apricot color has dried, we're going to put our pumpkin in, and I'm going to do that with my craft sponge, and I've dampened this and wrung it out really, really well, and we're just going to sponge it in our pumpkin color. And on these deep crevices, you kind of have to push in there, and we're doing the sponge so we get a textured look. It's not a solid look. We want that more textured. So we're just going to push that all in here. And remember, we're doing our colors backwards. We're starting with our highlight colors, our middle colors, and then we'll finish with our shaded color. So we'll use like a tomato spice or a dark red in just a minute here. So I'm pushing these all the way in. Now where it kind of smears, if you go around the corner, kind of go back in and texturize that back up so that it's not smeared. It is nice and spongy looking, so you don't have any kind of smear look. And we're going to go ahead and let that dry, and then we're going to go ahead and add our final color and see how much more the red really adds to that to make it more pumpkin looking. Alright, now that our pumpkin color has dried, we're going to come in and we're going to do our tomato spice, or our dark red. And I use tomato spice because it's a deeper, richer color, and it covers better than a bright red would. And again, we're going to try and get those little areas down in the back. And you can see how it shows through, but it doesn't take over, but it gives it more that pumpkin look. I'm trying to get down in those little crevices. That's kind of a trick there. And we're gonna get him all the way done. Now remember, we talked about you need 2 of these. You should be working on them at one time. Now, after this dries, what we want to do is we want to spray varnish it really well, and so that helps keep, and you could brush on varnish, it doesn't matter, but that keeps the paint from rubbing off and everything. So as soon as this is dry, varnish it, and then we're going to start to put our pumpkin together. Okay, while our varnish is drying, we're going to work on our leaves and get them drying as well. And I'm going to be using a band of burlap to do around the middle. And you can use an old burlap sack and recycle that, so it's a more recycled material as well. Or you can use part of a ribbon, burlap ribbon. It's really big right now, so sometimes it's easier to use that as well. But I'm going to show you another pumpkin I did with the burlap pieces and how cute that was. And this was actually a burlap sack, and to make it more sturdy, I used Mod Podge on that, and also with the acrylic cues, and that was just recycled twine as well as the paper twist on a 99-cent pumpkin. So there's another little idea. So I'm going to make our leaves out of our ribbon right now, and I'm going to go sideways so I get these long leaves. And you can make them as big as your ribbon is, or if you're using a burlap bag like we talked about. So we've got that cut, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to notch them. I'm going to come back in and notch in at least 2 times here to give them more of a leaf shape. Flip that over and do it again. And one more time down here. Okay, so we've got our leaf, and what I'm going to do, I've used a leaf green color, and I'm going to come in and water that down, and we're simply going to color our leaf. And do it on both sides so that you get it solid. And then while that is still wet, I'm going to take my Christmas green and I'm going to dip it in just on the edge, and I didn't wash my brush out or anything, and I'm going to apply it just to the edge of my leaf to give it a shadow color. Just on that outside part. Walk that all the way around. We're going to flip it over. I'm going to move it to a drier part, so hopefully I'll take it off the other side, and I'm going to do it again. Okay, so there we go. We've got them done on both sides. So I'm going to take him out. I'm going to let him dry, and then we'll assemble him together. Okay, once our pumpkin sides had dried and we varnished them and they were ready to go, what I did is I cut 4 little slots, 1/4 of an inch down on both sides, and squished them together so one could stretch out and one could stretch in, and overlap them about 1/2 inch. And that was a little bit hard unless you make those cuts. Once you do that, it's a lot easier. And the next thing I made sure I did is lined up my grooves so that these guys look like they belong together right there, so they make our little pumpkin shape. And now that we've got it put together, I'm going to put our band. And another thing is, see how this guy's on top? You want him going down, because if you have this on top, you can see underneath it, so it looks better going that direction. And I'm going to glue my ribbon on with my low temp gun and make sure you've got it pretty level all the way around. One side's not more than the other, or vice versa, and so on. And I'm just going to put that ribbon right on, and it's covering up our seam. And we're using the low temp so we don't melt our plastic. Just going to take that all the way around. I was hoping to kind of tie it, but the ribbon is too thick and bulky, so we're just going to glue that piece on there, and then we're going to tie a raffia bow all the way around. So I think I'll put that guy in the back. I'm going to twist it a little bit to keep it on the ribbon we just did, instead of it being all over the place. Let's start our bow and then we'll tie it a little bit on once we get it positioned a little bit better. Sometimes you need that third hand. Okay, there, we're getting it. So now let's get our bow tied. This bow to lay flat. I know I'm not listening to my rules on how to tie a bow, but it's so hard when you're always trying to do everything backwards as well. Okay, that's better. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm also going to glue this guy into place as well, so he's not slipping and sliding everywhere. We'll tack him in a couple of places, especially in our bow area. Him down there. Tack him in the back. Sure, you don't want any of that glue to show. Sides just a tad. So then we're going to trim, making different lengths and stuff. He's not all the same length. And we're going to take our paper twist, or paper rush if you do coiling, or paper core, different names for it. Those are just wrapped nicer, and I'm going to undo just a little bit. Kind of get a circular thing going. I'm going to undo the top just a tad. We'll end up putting it back together anyway. Just glue him there. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this just a little bit straighter, just to glue him on. Otherwise I'd have left him uneven for the natural look. I'm probably going to have to pull him out just a tad. Okay. Alright. So we've got that guy going on. Now let's get our leaves on. And there's lots of ways you can decorate it. Don't, just think we have to do it a certain way or this way is the only way to do it. I'm just going to put my leaves right in front, but you could use all kinds of different types of leaves. You could add curly cues to it, which I think would be really, really cute. And I don't want just the 2 leaves. I want to make sure that we give him a 3rd one here, just to make him look a little bit better and to give him a little bit more color. You could come in with your Halloween spiders and all kinds of cute ideas on that. So there's a bunch of, other things that you can do to add to that. You're not just stuck with that part of it. Just kind of make sure if we do put that bow on that is on the front. I think a curlicue would be real cute, or some other little decorations in there as well, just to help him stand out a little bit more. But there is our recycled pumpkin. We post a new picture for you, or a new project, or a gourd every day on Miriam Joy's Gourd Creation. So come over and check that out. Thank you and God bless.